Hi there, I'm Dani Henderson. Welcome back to my beautiful channel. I am hoping that this is recording, but Zoom went there. They went there and they changed the whole thing. Zoom, stop it, knock it off. It's so irritating. I'm saying it because it's annoying. We get to a point with a piece of technology and we're comfortable, and the people around us, older and younger, are comfortable. And we've upgraded for your enjoyment. It's not enjoyable. It's very stressful. I literally can't see if I'm recording. Good job you are. Andrea Foulkes, past life regression therapist, inner child healing therapist. Welcome, my love. How are you?
Hello, Dani. Welcome. It's ages since we've spoken, I think, yes. And I totally understand. I think we're of an age. Well, I mean, I'm sure everybody's of that age where technology, you've just mastered it. And then they change the rules of the technology game again. And it's like, and that's really, we're using technology but in a very mindful way to be able to do our organic skills and gifts, for you to speak and share all these amazing people that you have on as guests, sharing their amazing life stories. You can't just do that. You have to be able to do technology to be able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, a little light, a nice little microphone, all of that. And then, yeah, and then again, it can bounce the mic off. It can change the audio. It's just like, stop it already, you guys. But we are today going to cover some subjects that both you and I know are extremely important and helpful to the beloveds out there, that we love very much and care very much about. And everybody, I don't know anybody who's not in turmoil or shifting or healing or releasing or accepting and taking responsibility or breaking up, or there's so much turbulence in the world. So one of the areas that you raised was the fact that you wrote an article recently in the Daily Mail, which is such a big deal in Great Britain. It's like writing something in the New York Post, for example, not putting it on the same level, because I think there's a lot of celebrity nonsense, which I have zero interest in. Who cares? What good have they ever done at this, for a time like this? But you're getting chosen to write an article in the Daily Mail is as senior as it gets in Britain in terms of a respected, somewhat newspaper, right?
Yeah, and I think I feel like I need to explain because often people, you get the same as me. We share other people's work or we write stuff in other realities, and people go, "Oh, you've associated with so and so. I'm going to unfriend you now. I'm not going to like what you post." And the problem is, my work has always been, for 23 years I've done regression, and from 2004 to 2007 I worked on ITV, which is one of our main channels in the UK, taking celebrities and members of the public back to past lives. And then I did two shows with someone else called Philip Schofield, who was hosting the show. And we did two series taking members, no, that wasn't members of the public, that was celebrities back to past lives. And then I feel like I'm always going back into what I might call Babylon. So me writing an article for a newspaper on ghosts and buildings and even mentioning entities. And even when I was on TV, I mentioned entities as well. But I feel like my energy sometimes has to go back into that reality to share that information with the masses. And I think sometimes we have to honor that we all have our each unique energy, and the work that we're doing to help awaken the masses is, if we're only ever speaking to awake people, we kind of miss the point, because we have to keep going back to plant seeds of consciousness in people who are yet to awaken. And that's what I feel like I'm doing. I'm going back to plant seeds of consciousness. So I write this article with the help of a wonderful journalist called Samantha Brick, who is, as journalists go, pretty open and aware of spiritual things. So that's really beautiful. So even in, the mainstream, even in all the things we think are dark, there are awake people in those things behind the scenes helping to bring the awakening in every corner. That's how I see it.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, and so you write this article, and people assume that because you've done a video in the way distant past with a person who's very public and very much an activist, that that must mean something, because there's always information coming out. And so, guys, you just got to discern, feel with your heart, and just stop making mean comments. It's not helpful. We mentioned the False Memory Association.
Also,
which is
Yeah.
important. So one of the things that I know about false memory association, some of the founders are literal SRA persons who have done the harming, and this has been proven. And so again, if you follow the track and you follow the people behind the organization, so you're damn right that they say these are false memories, this child or this adult, this is a made up thing, because they are trying themselves to whitewash it. It's one of the MK Ultra mind control, handling, what's it called, damage limitation aspect. Go ahead with your.
Yeah, I don't know about, I know about the UK false memory, and they'll, they might come across this. I have crossed paths with them back in the day. Like there was a gentleman called Chris French who is linked to the false memory, and they rolled him out when I did TV shows. He's the what we call talking heads in TV, to be the person who's against what I'm saying, against regression. And then there was another lady called Wendy something. She runs a skeptics magazine, so she makes a living out of being a skeptic. And I was on another TV show called the BBC Big Question, which I've done a few times, and she was against what I was saying there. And then there's another gentleman who is now what maybe you call the chairman of the False Memory Association, and of course it's understandable why they would get to that situation. They've had siblings who have come up with false memories or true memories, who knows, against the parents. And of course, they're so horrified. Or when I first came across the False Memory Association, they came to my house, someone had come to my house for a session with me and said, I don't really want a session with you. I'm here to talk about the false memories that my daughter has come up with, and she doesn't want anything to do with us. And so I listened to this lady and I said, yes, because they're really down on regression therapists. They're like, this is bringing up false memories of abuse that are not true in our opinion. And, I'm standing on the sideline going, I don't know whether your child's memories are true or what you're saying is a truth. But what I do know 100% from the work that I do is I can discern whether those memories are an entity's who's attached memory, and many times they're entities, they're not your client's memories. So you might come up with a memory and it might look like you as a 5-year-old, but it's not you, it's an entity who's attached to you. So I can make sure that those memories are truly your own memories, or they might be an ancestor's memory, or they might be a past life regression memory. But if you've only got one set of skills in your bag of tricks, and you only can do regression, or you can only do inner child therapy, or only do past life regression, or you can only do ancestral healing, you don't know then for sure if all those memories are genuinely your clients. So of course I see where these families get upset, and especially they will be upset if it isn't true, and it could well be an entity's memory, but also they may well be true, and the families are angry because the child is bringing up memories and they don't want to take responsibility for what they did because they don't want to look at their wounding. So you kind of have to unpick it and take it with a wide sort of understanding of, yes, in general, those memories will be coming from somewhere, but where do they come from? And then you've got to go through it with a fine tooth comb. So to throw all regression therapists under the bus isn't very kind or helpful or useful. So I found it interesting that after I did this article, a week later, they had an article sort of trashing the work that we do.
Yeah. And again, if you throw religion on top and the people's systems, because people get triggered, conversations like this can be very triggering, which is fine. Get triggered. It's time. We don't have time anymore to wipe the noses of all the snowflakes. It's like this top down, I want to say abusive, kind of systemized societal, engine, the way that society has been engineered. We're so off balance with who we are as individuals. We're so off balance with, oh, don't say that because that's going to trigger the LGBTQD, and I've just blown all through that. I'm like, I'm over it. I'm done. Stop it. Stop trying to manage me, handle me, tell me what to think, feel, and do, because I'm not playing. It's like I am stepping out of that false matrix, standing here, coming from love, same as you, Andrea Foulkes, and saying, no, no more. So if you hear something, which I did from Rachel Vaughan the other day in Australia, her knowledge of some of the a false memory society there, looking at the founders, that she pinpointed their names and said they're involved in this coven or this cult, and that is why they created this false memory group. There's different names for false memory groups, of course, they're not all the same. And so, you know, it's like you go, oh, well, that's so obvious. That's so obvious that they did that. But this is a reality. You know, we are these multidimensional people, as you said, rightly so. And a lot of people will never have heard before that a memory they have could belong to an entity in their field that's attached to them, right? So let's take a little
Yeah.
bit more care there with what you just shared and how people can maybe sense for themselves if they can't come for a session. How might they locate if a memory is real or it's not theirs?
Well, I mean, initially, what they could do is if this memory's coming up, you know, ask, you know, what, I mean, we've got to really break it down, because the memory coming up, they might see it, or they might just have a sense of true knowing, rather than actually a visual memory. They might have the emotions of it coming up. So sometimes they talk about having emotions, and then you have to go, but that isn't your normal emotional set. So that might not be you. It's a bit like the best place. Oh God, my words are today. It's like the best case is, you know, when you see couples, because couples trigger each other, don't they? They really trigger each other. And then they go, I don't know, just went into like this completely other personality. And they were not themselves. There's a giveaway. They were not themselves. They were this other personality. And there's a difference between triggering, I'll just use a male because I'm a woman, triggering a partner into going, oh my God, he's behaving like he's 5 years of age. You know, there's a difference between triggering someone to being like a 5-year-old and someone who sort of starts to act in mannerisms and a vocabulary and a tonation of voice. Tonation of voice is probably the biggest giveaway, that is not their tonation of voice, and using a language and a use of phrases that belongs to another era. You know, that is definitely not you. Past life memories don't come up like that. That would not be a past life memory. That's going to be an entity attached. Could be an ancestor, could be some random person you've never met in your entire life. And your emotional energy field is a vibrational match to what they resonate with. You know, whatever happened to them in their life, whether it was like they felt not heard and you feel not heard. So they're like, oh, they feel not heard. I feel not heard. I can get into their energy field because there's a hole in your energy field. And it doesn't have to always be a negative one. I have talked about this before. You know, a family friend who was called an uncle, who was a lovely gentleman, he attached to me because he left me money in his will. And I was so grateful. I was like, I never thought he'd leave me anything. And then I started to manifest feelings of having like diabetes. And I was like, he had diabetes. That isn't me. And so I inquired within myself, are you attached? And he was like, yes. I could hear his voice in my head, yes. You know, and he detached because he said, oh, I love what you do, it's so interesting. Of course. And so I said, well, how did you manage to attach to me? He went, you were too grateful for the money. So, you know, when we're in our emotions, you know, we can be in rage and anger, but we can also be in too much gratitude. People don't understand that the emotion of, oh, thank you so much, so much, so much. You know, you can go over the top with thanking people, you know, people who find it struggling hard to receive kindnesses, you know, like, I bought you a box of chocolates, so you've got to buy me 3 boxes of chocolates and a bunch of flowers. You know, it's no enough. Sometimes you just need to allow yourself to receive. You don't need to constantly be trying to recompense. So that can take your energy out of alignment. All these things are to just bring us back into the scales of balance, isn't it?
Absolutely. And that's such, again, a very important and valid point where people are, so grateful, over grateful, because in their mind, the person they're grateful to has either done something like gifted money, or they're on YouTube, let's say. There's a good example of this hero worship, which is to me just ridiculous, is people stop because no one's more important than you, than each of us. Nobody above another, not one above another, nobody more important. It just is so silly. But again, that's how we've been socially engineered. Oh, look on the telly, look at the movies, look on YouTube, they're all stars. No, they're not. They're regular people. They're just people. They might have a little bit more knowledge on a subject than you, or they might be doing something you find fascinating that you wish you knew more about. But don't be impressed. And I cannot believe, I'm seeing it every day. People are dying on the hill and defending people that they have never met in their lives. They will never, ever meet. And I guarantee 99% of people that die on the hill and fall on the sword for people they don't know, that person is never, ever going to hear their name, know their name, or meet them. So again, this is this giving away, giving away our own frequency, our own soul energy to people that don't even know. I mean, they're going to pass you on the street. You might get an adrenal high from it because you built up this idea of how amazing they are, but what about you, friend? What about your beautiful energy? What about your value and your worth? No one's ever going to be more valuable or worthy than you. So quit giving all that energy away. It's really important to share these things, right, Andrea?
Yeah, because I think the people are so, they're so powerful and they're lost at the same time. So it's a tricky one, being powerful and lost. And not, if you don't know yourself and you've been taught by the media, and the media can, as we know, be used for good and bad. It's not all bad. It's like cherry picking bits you want of things that are good and bad. I mean, I don't really watch TV, but there's no harm in watching a gardening program, is there? I don't think that's going to do you any harm in the mainstream. So, and I think people are quick to trash other people, and in their wounding, those people get offended. So sometimes when people say, "Oh, I really enjoy this or that," I go, "Good for you, good for you. I'm genuinely happy for you." I'm not going to say, "Oh, I don't like that," or "I don't believe in that." I'm not really going to defend or attack anything. I'm just going to stay neutral. I think staying neutral is a really, really good place to be, because unless, like Dani says, you have knowledge or information about something from the inside, you really don't know. I had it only the other week. I won't say who it is. But people went, "Oh, you're promoting so and so." I just promoted an event, and I say promoted, I shared a post about someone's event. And those people turned on me and even unfriended me, which is ridiculous because they don't know that person. They've never met them. And I said, "What evidence do you have for the beliefs you have about someone?" And they're like, "Well, I saw a video." "Where is this video?" "Oh, I don't know, can't find it now." So it's not a truth. And even if you had a video, somebody's made a video of their opinion, but it's not an absolute experience. So it's like Chinese whispers. And I think we have to be very careful in this, awakening community of people, because during COVID, I think so many new influencers came on the scene. And instead of people sort of worshipping pop stars, they started to worship influencers.
Yeah.
But in worshipping influencers, you're not doing the inner work on you. The most important thing that people can do now is this inner work on themselves. And I've seen it with clients recently. They're like, "I've followed you for years. I love what you do. I'm only following you." And I hate that word, following.
Mhm.
"I'm showing an interest in the subject matter that you talk about." That's what following is. And because of social media, we have to call people followers or friends, which isn't really the right terminology. They're people genuinely interested in our subject and our sharing. But please don't put off doing this inner work on yourself until you're really, really sick and ill. Try and do this work as you go through life. At the first point you feel something's not quite right in your physical body or your emotional well-being, really reach out for help early doors. Don't leave it till it ricochets out of control.
Yeah, you just reminded me of something. This horrible old bag of a woman, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago. She's in her bedroom, in her bed. Like, first of all, that's hideous to me. That makes me feel physically nauseous. I do not want to see someone in their bed, their feet, and doing a fake false pendulum reading. Silly old bag. Yeah, I mean, just so odd and peculiar. And then, there's just so much that goes out into the field that is harmful and hurtful, but the person doing it must understand that it's going to come back to them, because energy out is energy in. It's going to come back tenfold, tenfold, tenfold. And I always say to people, if you are going to say, if you're going to name someone, which I have done and I do, and I know for definite that someone's speaking as an influencer and putting harmful information into the field, you're damn right, I'm going to use my beautiful platform for the right thing, to say to people, please, my love, be careful there. This person is fake, false, not good. Be careful where you put your energy, because that will get loosed. You know what I mean? And you'll be again dying on a hill.
Yeah, the problem we've got is once people have decided that they like somebody or something, because it's something they've not processed in themselves. So it brings up the other word of discernment. They haven't mastered discernment. So when you say to them, that person is not good in any walk of life, I can remember when I was personally dating a psychopathic conman and I figured him out, and I said to my friends, he's not a good person, but they decided from their brief encounter with him that he was a good person. So they wouldn't believe what I'm saying. Yeah, I have vast experience of, months figuring this person out. And masters of deception, for anyone in a relationship with a master of deception, please do not beat yourself up. You cannot know with someone who is a master of deception. And there may be clues, we're going into a relationship dimension now, but I think it's such an important thing for people, because I see so many women, predominantly women, sometimes men, but predominantly women, come to me, oh my God, why didn't I see it early doors? Do you know what? You did, but you're a good person and you didn't want to believe your intuition. Because if I take you back to the early doors, I always say, go back to the emotional state you were in when you met that person. Where were you on the day you met that person? How were you feeling on that day? Did you, and there was always a little message of doubt, but you thought, why would I think bad things about somebody I've never spent any time with? And you silence the red flags. You silence that because your parents taught you to be a good, nice person and not think bad about other people. But these warning signs are signs for you to trust your own intuition. So don't beat yourself up when you finally figured it out. Oh my God, I think they're a narcissist. I'm never going to trust anybody again. You will trust people. You truly will, but you will go through a period of time of feeling very vulnerable, very much like you don't trust anybody. But that's part of the process of healing, because it's forcing you to go back into you and look at the chronic empath in you. Because once you heal that chronic empath in you, then you will be able to reignite the power of the discernment that you had, but you just silence the voice of your inner critic, your inner, what's the word? I don't know. Inner influence, that's the wrong word. Sometimes I am lost for words, but that wise woman, wise man in you who knew the difference, but you didn't want to listen to it because you didn't want to appear like a mean person about somebody. But that will save you a lot of heartache. So in the process of healing, I, used to maybe spend only a few months with someone who was a bit off, but I meet clients who've spent 10, 13 years with someone who's a bit off, so my level of intuition is way stronger than yours is at this moment in time. My love of self is way stronger than yours is at this moment in time. But at any moment, you can turn that ship around. And I always love that phrase, a ship is safe in the harbor, but that's not what ships are for. And to turn it around, a ship doesn't just go, it requires like an arched circle. And an arched circle takes time to heal, to come back to yourself, to go, I am going to trust myself. I am going to be more discerning in the future. I'm going to figure those dodgy people out early doors. And it isn't just relationships, it's people you trust on the social media, it's influencers that you have put all your energy into believing what they're saying rather than your intuition.
Yeah, again, some fantastically valid points that just so helpful. And I love your delivery. It's another reason why we're friends, because we're very similar. We just let you land it. You have to tell it like it is. Don't try and wrap it up. And another thing about you and me is we don't edit ourselves for YouTube. We are raw, we are real. Yeah, but that's the thing. But why? And again, it's beautiful for people that watch this, because if you were sitting in front of a real person, at some point during a conversation, you could get triggered because you don't want to hear something, and you might not want to hear what I've got to say next, and that's fine. But there's a heart resonance, and the heart never lies because frequency doesn't lie. Like, let's take, for example, this Muppet boy out there who's trying to loosh in to build a galactic following, and he's never had an experience in his life. Never, Martin. Anyway, he will sit on his phone on a 2-hour broadcast on his channel, on his phone, reading from his phone, right there, zero experience. If there's nothing real or natural, why is your attention going there? How can you trust that? You yourself could flip on a YouTube channel of your own and sit and talk rubbish and plagiarize someone's work for 2 hours. So again, trusting with heart resonance, feeling into it. Do these people care? Do they have real experiences? Should I listen to them for 2 minutes, let alone an hour? You mentioned in the relationships that we have, men and women, men and men, women and women, whatever they may be, the relationship partner that we choose is a beautiful mirror back to us. And there are so many people that all they focus on is what he did to me, what she did to me. They don't take accountability or responsibility for their own work, their own wounds, their own narcissism, their own pushing and prodding, their own recognizing weakness in a partner and going for that, whether consciously or unconsciously, because a lot of us haven't done the inner work. And so we're so busy saying, he did this, blah, blah, blah. But there will always be a level. Well, I didn't see that. And when we go into defense, which people go, well, I didn't do that and I didn't ask for that. And we're not saying that. That's not the point. The point is looking at you and going, you know what, I could have been kinder. He lost his mom and I did this, or whatever it might be. But then don't go into both extreme ends of the scale. Or you're playing the victim or you're playing the martyr. We got to find that balance in the middle. What did you want to say about that?
I was going to say, I've seen people come to my events, when I've held events, and it's been a male and it's been an intimate group sometimes. And this person is intellectually well read on spiritual matters, okay, but they have zero experience, zero. For some reason, I'm getting a low battery. My plug might not be plugged in. Wait 1 second. I'll be back in two jiffies to plug it in.
Indeed, I will. And I'm going to go into a little bit more of the guidance system that we have around us, our guides, our guidance. We are told that we have all these spiritual guides and angels, and, they do exist. But who and what are they? And one of the biggest areas of absolute spiritual vanity, which causes spiritual catastrophe in everyone's lives if they're not aware, is imagining that they have the Archangel Michael, Archangel Uriel, Raziel, Raphael. Now, I'm not mocking those archangels because I actually believe they do exist. I've had my own experiences with them, which is why I know There are real ones and there are fake ones. Now, it is very triggering for people. Again, get ready for a trigger. This is a vanity, ego trigger warning. I have said many times, and I'm suggesting again to everybody watching, that I don't care who you are. I don't care how qualified, how experienced you are. I would invite you to imagine, if you can't literally see your guides, and most people have never seen their guide, they imagine that they're there. They have conversations with them, which creates energy attachment and energy connection. Okay, so I advise everyone to get into a calm state, breathe into the body, and honestly, genuinely love yourself first and enough to line each of your guides up in front of you, whether it's in your mind and your imagination, and fire them. Fire them one by one and watch where you go. Oh no, I couldn't do that. Oh no, but he'll leave me. Oh, he'll never come back. If you have a genuine loving guidance system and you love yourself enough to raise up your frequency and your energy so you can drop the shite that's attached to you, then I admire you. Do it. And if your guides are worthy, doesn't matter if you think it's Jesus, Mother Mary, halula, halula, it doesn't matter. If they can truly come into your physical vibration and they're here as part of your beautiful, loving team, they are going to come back around. And the real ones don't care if you fire them because they don't have an ego. They don't have an agenda. Their job is to guide, to love, to protect. It is not to run, to own, or to push you in a direction that feeds them. A lot of our guides are earthbound spirits, dead people wandering around, attached to us. Oh no, I can help you, I can help you. If you're triggered, that's a good thing. Get triggered, who cares? How else are we going to elevate quickly and not by 10 sessions with a therapist because we can't figure out what's going? What Andrea and I are giving you is a brilliant class in areas that we were inviting you to rethink about, because we care about you all and we're in a time of massive transition. So line up your guides and fire them one by one by one. Andrea.
And when I do sessions, I always say to people, as we're doing the spirit releasement, I'm asking, are only beings who are working for my client's soul's highest purpose can remain? And of course, you get some sort of trickster energy people who will hang around. And then, I've had to develop my discernment very, very wisely. And that's basically from 23 years experience in doing this work every day, day in, day out, day in, day out, to figure out that that being isn't who they claim to be and isn't helping my client, may even be affecting their health, physical health, mental health. And so, guiding them out of my client goes, oh my God, I genuinely thought they were helping me. I'm like, no, they really weren't helping you. But then I look inside my client, and of course, my client has a deeply wounded inner child they've never healed, or a load of past lives, often linked to kind of occult past lives, where they've been disempowered by a hierarchical structure in the past lives, and their own intuition has got shut down, so they don't have the best filter because it got traumatized in a past life. And so they've been under the sort of guidance of this being. And then I get a lot of people say, well, I'm in this development class where I live, but I'm going to be honest with you. I feel this either man or woman who's running the class, I feel like they keep me down. They keep me down, And I don't want to say too much, but it was quite funny. I did go to a spiritual church for the first time in my life recently. And it was quite funny because I didn't want to give anything away. And the guy said, have you ever done any development work, Andrea? I said, yes, a little bit. I said, but I've never, and I hadn't truly ever been to a spiritual church. I'd never been to a spiritual church in my life. And he went, and it was the way he said it, went, got anywhere with it? And I went, oh, I think it's worked out okay for me a little bit. Yes, I do think so. And I still didn't give away anything about what I did or anything. But I just found it so wonderful to have this experience. And I will share one of the other wonderful things of this experience was I sat in this development class, and it was adorable because I probably last sat in a development class about 20 years ago. And it was, where I'm not teaching the class, I'm just sat there as this innocent person. Nobody knows anything about me. But there was a lady at the end, and she said, oh, she was, you know, not confident, but yet very skilled and gifted. And this is what I want to get across to people. She was exceptionally skilled and gifted. And then I did give away a bit of myself to validate what she'd come up with, because she said, does anybody mind if I just show a couple of pictures I drew a couple of days ago? Because I was guided to bring these pictures with me, and I was told that they would make sense to people in the room. And so, you know, the other lovely lady holding the group said, oh yes, go ahead, show your pictures. So she shows this picture, and I'm like, that's my mum. And she'd drawn my mum, you know, and yet she
Ah,
was, you know, still developing. And then, you know, I had to validate some of what she said and other things, because then the lady in the group said to tune into me and to my friend who'd gone with me, who wasn't used to doing these kinds of things. And I wasn't going to say much about what I did or anything. And it was really sweet, because these people were really good and they did need somebody to validate it. So, you know, when you go to spiritual development groups, you must validate what people are saying, or tell them, no, that isn't right for me. You know, if it isn't, please don't feel like you're offending these people. They have to learn. You have to learn. But if they come up with information that is valid, you must say if it's true. Because here's a funny story in an odd way. So at my mum's funeral, one of my mum's sister's friends came over to me, and she said, do you remember when you were doing all the development stuff for this, which must have been 20 years ago? We used to have family parties, and I used to hold people's jewelry doing psychometry at the family party, because there'd be like extended family members you don't know. And she said, I told you that information wasn't correct for me, but it had sat with her for 20 years. She went, I have to tell you, it was right. It was right, that information. And she'd sat with it for 20 years waiting to tell me. And
oh
she'd
my
used my
God.
mum's funeral to tell me that. So this is how important it is in our development that we validate other people on their development journey. And, you know, before you reject information that they share with you, think very carefully if it does link to their life, because this is you developing the most powerful thing you're ever going to have, which is your intuition. And, you know, that intuition is like the leading light in your life. Once you have developed and honed, you know, in the work that I do, and I'm sure with Dani as well, people might go, it sounds arrogant for you to say that, but I know that when I go into that space to do the work that I do, I know my intuition in that area of my life. Now, if you think about yourself as a diamond, there are areas of your life where you might be a little bit off. But when I go into that diamond of life in doing this work, I know I'm bang on, 100% bang on.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's great. So many great elements there, and something again, as we're looking at mirrors and taking responsibility, etc. Beautiful, absolutely right. We do need to be validated. It's so helpful. I did a drop the other day on my channel where I shared 2 experiences I had where the man client had serious dark attachment that was causing absolute havoc, and the things that I did, the tools that I used. And then I said to people, and I'll say it again now, when you are validated in something, please then don't think you are an expert and a master at it and go running out and try and do exorcisms on people because you saw some gobby bird on YouTube who was telling you how to use certain tools and what to do and what could potentially happen. It's just so dangerous. Now, I had an experience years ago which correlates with you saying about validating, but this is slightly different, but also the same thing. So people can help recognize that spiritual ego, that vanity ego that we don't like to admit to, and another reason or highlight how that can be possible. Now, did you ever hear of the very beautiful, long-term famous medium, Mavis Patilla?
No.
Okay, so she's since passed, lovely lady. Now, is it the Arthur Stanbury College or Albert Finney? What's it called?
Arthur Finley.
Okay,
Arthur Finley. It's near
Finley.
Stanford. I've never been there, but I've heard a
Okay.
lot of people have been there.
Okay, so this college is long-term tenured, has turfed out safely trained classical mediums, physical mediums over the years. So I decide one day that I want to attend a class on mediumship. My entire life, I've been seeing angels, demons, and aliens. It isn't that I can't see them, but I decided, I think I'd like to take a class. So then I see this class with Mavis Patilla, and I'm like, oh, I like her. I feel good about this. I'm going to book that class. But the class was called a master class. So then I worried, who am I to book a master class in mediumship when I've never had a class, yet I've been a natural born medium my whole life? So I struggled with that, right? Which got me in trouble, which I'm going to bring the story to a close and highlight that. So I go to this class, and basically we sit listening to the great Mavis Patilla telling us, and we're sitting in circle. Then she gets us to go into small groups. I'm sitting with a lady, and we're advised to read that person for 1 minute, with their permission, of course, which is hugely important. So this lady I'm sitting with, I see a little girl with her, a little 2-year-old girl. I said, oh, there's the most beautiful little baby girl with you. She's 2. Her name is whatever it was, and boom. And then this lady said, that's my sister. She died before I was born, and she often shows up in my readings and stuff. And or things like this. I said, oh, that's so lovely. I'm glad that I saw her, and she's real, and you can validate that for me as a person in this class, and for you as a person who's lost a sister, and she's a spirit guide for you. Well, when it came to actually standing up in front of the whole room and reading or feeling where energy was driven, the little girl, the spirit girl that looked completely solid to me, ran right across and in front of me. But I didn't say anything because I'd already given that lady over there a reading. We'd already discussed that little girl, but that was my error. I stood up nervous, which is a good thing. Be nervous. It means you're humble and not an a-hole. But I'd already told the lady about the little girl, and other people had already heard the story. So why would I then? So my mind got involved, and I stood up, and I was rubbish. I was nervous, I was shaking, and I couldn't feel a thing because I just let everything, rather than just be natural and be flowing and say, oh, I just saw a little girl, run in front of me. I just met with her over there. She belongs to this lady. Then that lady could have validated. That would have given me more confidence to then look at somebody else where energy or spirit was guiding me to then say something about them. But I ruined my own experience. And if I am honest, it was ego. My ego doesn't always mean that you're vain. Ego also is not good enough, not worthy enough. What am I doing in a masterclass? Anyway, I had a beautiful experience. I met a wonderful girl in particular, Donna Harris, who I did great work with. One of the greatest mediums I ever met, funniest Cockney bird, Donna Harris. I love her. And we had some great fun together. So something also great came out of that. But again, to highlight an idea or an example where it's kind of for us to go, do you know what? I was really hard on myself. I know why I got caught up in ego of not good enough, victim ego, which plays a huge part too.
And the other thing is, right, as an empath, when you go into these development classes, probably what was happening for Dani was, as an empath, you can absorb the feelings of the other people, and that can make you feel not confident, but they're not your feelings, they're their feelings. So in these intimate groups, you have to be careful and learn how to not absorb other people's energy, because often I hear people saying that. They're saying, oh, I'm confident normally. All of a sudden in this group of people, I feel not confident. And as empaths, we can absorb the negativity of other people, and then we express their negativity back to them as if it's coming from us, but it's their stuff we've picked up, isn't it? It's like, it's complex, but it's not complicated. But it is so complex, this learning to be in your own energy field and to have the skills and gifts we have as empaths. I can feel sometimes, ooh, I'm feeling like I feel not confident, but then I'm able to discern this is not my emotion. This is I've picked up the collective energy of the room of people and all the stuff they've not processed. And in some kind of way, I'm sort of like a conduit for processing their emotions, which can be very unpleasant experience for people to have, you know. So it's very hard to always remember to stay in your own energy bubble, stay in your own energy field. And I say this to clients before they go to bed. I said, one of the most important things to do, and the easiest thing to forget before you go to sleep, and I think I probably did it to myself last night, I didn't say I'm only available to go where is for my soul's highest purpose in dream time. If it takes anything from my physical body in this reality, I don't want to wake up feeling like I've been pulled through 1,000 universes all night. You know, you really want to stay in your physical body, and only go where is benevolent and healing for this version of you, because this version of you that's in a physical body is the most important version of you.
Yeah, beautiful.
I feel very passionate about that.
Indeed, indeed. And the thing again about our sleep time, we know that there are so many people at night time, in dream time, they're astrally traveling. It's a natural phenomena that us humans do. We do leave our physical vessel and we do go off around and we do different things. And I know there are some people saying, I took care of China last night when I was in because of me, Egypt is saved. Please. That is the biggest ego talk ever. But people believe themselves. They believe their own press releases in their own lunch times. And, you know, you see people say, I am the only one talking to God, and you must buy my coins because my coins are the only galactic coins that are going to work off planet. And if you don't believe me, I'm coming for you. There's a man out there with a big mouth and a big ego saying these exact things. He's actually saying this, Andrea. It is amazing. Now, we don't need to be letting ourselves running rampant, not feeling safe where our soul is going, where we're astrally traveling. One very quick technique, guys, if you don't want to be in the war at night, you want to get some rest, that is your decision. You get to choose. You didn't know that maybe, but you get to choose. One of the easiest ways to do that, when you lie down to sleep, I want you to imagine yourself literally inside a silver sleeping bag. It is completely silver. It is all around you. And when you look at the inside of it, it is bright light. You are in a silver, beautiful sleeping bag. It zips all the way up. And you're in a cocoon of light, your own light, safe light, protected light. You can imagine this in your mind, and it does shift your energy, frequency in your field in that moment. That will keep you protected and safe. And you might want to teach your children and others to do the same
And
thing.
turn these off, these phones, you know, turn off your Wi-Fi if you can. You know, the amount of people I say, please turn off your Wi-Fi if you can in your house before you go to sleep. And they're like, oh, I don't think the rest of the family would like that, but the rest of the family would benefit from it. I know if you live in a flat share, it's quite tricky. And, you know, I've worked with a lot of clients recently who, because they live in a flat share or they live in a flat, they're astral traveling up, and they're so able to read other people's energy fields. They're going into the realms of their flatmate who's sleeping above them, so they're tuning into their stuff, and they're taking on stuff that isn't their own. They're taking on the flatmate stuff, or they're taking on the flatmate in the room, you know, next to them. And if that person's got drug or alcohol issues, you know, if you're a highly sensitive person, you're picking up that. So, you know, yes, maybe in the long term, it might be good to be able to move from that situation. You know, I had it recently with a client who, bless them, they were two, well, they're brothers, you know, and he's been so traumatized by the other brother because the other brother got into drugs and alcohol in the wrong crowd, you know, and broke my heart. I mean, we were supposed to be speaking when I had that client the other day, and it just broke my heart to see that, you know, two brothers had got to such a situation where the other brother had beaten the other brother up and he was covered in, you know, bruises and scratches and everything. But, you know, and it was very hard for the empathic brother that hasn't done any of those things to even be subjected to his energy in a room next to him. Is giving him like post-traumatic stress living in those environments. And so if you have that with a sibling or something, you know, try and explain it to your parents, you know, that even though you're a grown adult, you know, often these things are still going on. And nowadays it's often difficult for people to leave home quite so young because of finances, but, you know, ask your parents to have an airing of this situation, so it's all talked about, so that, you know, your parents going, oh no, you're not feeling the energies of that. You know, parents need to be respectful. And I know when I used to be on TV, I used to get 1,000 emails a day from kids saying, you know, I've seen my spirit guides, or I've seen these spirits and my parents aren't open to this, and I've got beaten up by my parents and hit because I've talked about spirits in other dimensions. But you only need to see a cute little baby talking to someone, which is obvious the baby is talking to a spirit, you know, in their little cot or whatever, to know that we live in this multidimensional reality. And I'm sure if you're listening to Dani and I, you have these mystical experiences, and just by the law of how the universe is created, you know, it seems that we're all put, okay, we're going to spread you out around the world, we're going to put one awake person in each family, and you're going to have to deal with that, because most of us don't live in a family dynamic where our families are awake, do we? You know, our families are usually going, not sure about what they're saying, you know. And it's like with this client that I totally respect the mother, took her a lot of energy to step out of her comfort zone to come to bring her child to me, because her child had found me through one of the interviews Dani and I had done. You know, so this is so important. These videos that we make are so important. And she'd stepped out of her comfort zone going, I don't believe in anything you do. And then she saw me, and because I look like her, just a regular woman, same age as her, she's like, oh, maybe she isn't so wooey wooey. You know, I didn't come out with a broomstick going, yes, how may I help you? You know, to come into my dark cavern, you know, I don't live like that. I don't look like that. So it allowed her to bring her son to come and see me, you know. So it's so important that you as parents, you know, listen to what your children are saying, and do be discerning if they want to meet people off the internet. Do be, you know, there's some people they maybe shouldn't meet, you know, but do your research on them. Grill those people if you feel you need to. You know, I was grilled by this mother quite a lot. You know, I sent her lots of links to books she should read and information she should learn about, though. But, you know, you do need to reach out for help, be that the parent or the child, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. And when you mentioned about the phone at night and the damage that the phone and the laptop and everything that's on and the Wi-Fi is actually doing, because it is the impact on the pineal gland is unquantifiable. So the glufosinate, whatever it's called, the fluoride in the toothpaste, for example, and the water, which should never have been put there, and Wi-Fi are three of the main blockers in our natural crystal. It is a crystalline, it helps us connect to all dimensions. It is the most sensitive part of our nervous system, our pineal, our crystalline pineal. Also wanted to say, you know, the care that you take with people, and, you know, the work that you've done. And yeah, last week we had a broadcast booked, and you were so impacted, you were so heartbroken for this beautiful young man, and it took so much of you and out of you, but you're so loving and you're so caring, and, you know, you are a no-nonsense girl. I mean, you are a no-nonsense girl, and people need that sometimes. And I have worked with you. I had a session with you when my fiance died from a heart attack, and I was in a very, very bad place, and you took care of that, but you also didn't let me off. You're like, we need to go back here and we need to go back there. So, you know, so I know that that was a really particularly heavy one for you. And it's difficult for therapists like us, spiritual therapists, qualified therapists like you and I, to not be so involved in the emotion and energy of someone. But sometimes you just get knocked sideways. Sometimes you just cannot help it. But
I
on
think it's the mother energy in you, isn't it? It's that, you know, I'm not a biological mother in this lifetime, but I certainly feel like some cosmic mummy to some of my clients, you know, who are you know, they're young enough to be my children, you know, and I love it that I work with these people. And I love it that, you know, and the thing is with these younger people, whereas the older people might go, oh, I'll do one session in my lifetime and think I've fixed everything. What I love about these younger souls coming in their mid-20s, they, you know, they will put this as a priority in their life, you know, doing the inner work, coming sometimes to workshops is a priority in their life. And as a sort of like mother energy watching them, some of them I've known them for 10 years or more, and I've seen them go from sort of like 20-year-olds to now 30-year-olds, and I've watched their journey. And you know, I'm like this cosmic mummy. Sometimes I've even ended up speaking to their parents on the phone, you know. So I've really played this like auntie mummy kind of energy in their life. And I've watched them sort of regain their confidence, regain their skills and gifts, heal their trauma. You know, one beautiful client, such, oh my God, it brings me such joy to see what she's done. And you know, her mother did the best she thought when she was 17, but she paid for her daughter to have butt implants. She paid for her daughter to have a chin implant, her lip fillers when she was 17. And now she's in her late 20s. But in the work that I've done with her, I've got her confidence. And she said, my bottom hurts when I sit down. You know, these operations have side effects that the media don't really tell you. So to see her go and get that butt implant removed, love the bottom that the creator gave her, have the chin implant removed, remove the lip fillers, have all that fixed, and to see her just be able to stand in the mirror and truly love herself, you know. And these reversals are not easy operations. The reversals are harder than the operation that you did in the first place. So if you're a young person considering this, you know, please work on your own inner self-worth. You are beautiful as the creator has created you, you know. And if you're a parent trying to make your child happy, paying for surgery in most cases is not going to be the answer. Help your child heal their mental health and self-worth before you start chucking money at them for surgery, even though they may beg you for surgery. Please, unless you can be quite rational and go, yes, you know, they have a huge gross disfigurement that may well be helped by surgery. But to be honest with you, if it was that bad, in the UK anyway, for sure, the NHS would pay for that. I mean, I know back in the day when I was at school, somebody called me Dumbo, and the NHS actually were prepared to pay for me to have my ears stuck back. But my mum was very clever, and she took me to see these surgeons, and they told me exactly what they do, and I was like, and she said, they said, we will cut your ears and pin them back and stitch them. And I was like, and my mum didn't say a word for 2 weeks. And I think we had 2 weeks to decide what to do. And I decided to leave my little ears as they are. And although they're rather large ears, I managed to make a living when I was younger as a model with those ears. So, you know, it hasn't held me back that badly.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Such valid points. You know, I knew a couple, I was doing marriage counseling with them, and they were when I met them, a male and a female, but when they met each other, they were two females. One of the females was much more masculine and go-getting and very confident, and she was the life of the party, and she was the most strong, and, you know, had the masculine energy frequency, and her partner was much more lighter, more kind of, you know, divine feminine energy. And they got together as two women, and then the subject came up, why don't you become a man? You're so manly, you're so manly. So the lady, she changed her sex to masculine. Now what we are never told is how much of the hormones, these people, these poor people that suffer, the ones that suffer, I'm saying, are the poor people. I have such compassion. They have to jab themselves every day. She was a woman, now she's a man. As a man, she needs to keep her natural, biological, organic female hormones down and balanced and in check. And that led to suicidation for this now man over and over and over and over and over and over and over. Not to mention, when a woman shifts to a male, they don't have a natural penis. Where's it going to come from? The operations, the terrible things that people go through. Men struggle already with a perception of it should be this big, or that's already out there. Imagine coming from female to male, and then you've got to deal with that on top of keeping hormones down. There are more people now from 20 years ago that have done a transition, that are detransitioning back, coming out saying, I wish I hadn't been allowed to do this. I wish I hadn't let doctors influence me or do all this stuff on me. And I've got to be careful here because boob tube bullies want the world to transition in the way that they're trying to socially engineer us. There is a small percentage of people that absolutely need such intense help. But when it's become a common idea, and when you have a group of girls, and I had 14, 13, and 14-year-olds, one of them was gung-ho to become a boy. Let's call her this name. So we did. Her girlfriend, as in a girlfriend, you know, all friends together, was so influenced by this. She was thinking maybe she was. We are influenced by our peers. As you know, at a certain age of a child, they don't want to hear what an adult has to say, especially mum and dad. This is a natural process for a teenage person. You know, we've got to remember these things. The kids aren't being bad. They are doing what's naturally tribal to them too, and they can be so, so influenced. I wanted to say
we
also,
we did a video on that. Do you remember? So there's one out there if people want to watch it. We did a deep video about, you know, not feeling okay in your body and feeling you're in the wrong gender. We did a really long video on that, didn't we? So people could look that up if they wanted to see that. But like you say, you know, people, you know, be really careful about whatever you do, whether it's a tattoo or whatever. You know, the reversal process of whatever it is you do is often way harder than the easiness of what it was you did in the first place. You know, the reversal of these things is major surgery and very painful, even with things like tattoos. You know, it's like, you know, and often it's our wounded ego. You know, I remember when I've spoken about how the ink from tattoos can affect your endocrine system and things like this. You have to be so careful because one girl went, right, I'm going to go and get a tattoo this afternoon, just in rebellion to you, you know, kind of, which defeated the whole object of, you know, what I was trying to say. And it's your body, it's your free will. You can do what you want to do. And with the best will in the world, people will have to take responsibility. And really, I think the spiritual path is really about the path of responsibility. And it's about, this isn't your, you know, it's about discerning what is your responsibility and what isn't your responsibility. And I listen to a lot of people who've, you know, and I go, you know what, that's not really your responsibility. You know, we go from this zero responsibility to I am responsible for everything in the world. And you're not responsible for everything in the world. And you're not responsible for everything in your family either. You are entitled to, you know, do what you want to do, but you also have to look at the cause and effect of what's created things. So cause and effect on the spiritual journey is a big thing. Discernment, developing and honing that intuition. You know, I'm going to be running a workshop on the 25th of August at the Chalice Well in Glastonbury, you know, and it will involve guided journeys, developing your intuition, trusting your intuition, you know, being in a safe group, the group environment. You can never underestimate the power of a group environment of people who've come with the same intention. Well, Dani knows it with the conferences. I mean, you're getting vast groups of people who've come with the same intention, the same love in their hearts. And, you know, outside of whatever people are talking about and sharing, the feeling of being with like-minded individuals compared to maybe be with your family, or like you're just like the black sheep of the family, to be in a family of people who all are on the same path as you is so heartwarming, isn't it?
yeah, it's really beautiful. It's beautiful. And the energy frequency it creates is unquantifiable. it creates a pulse, it creates a beautiful bump in consciousness globally. It imprints and impacts the fabric of this reality that we're in, because love is the greatest resonance and love doesn't lie. And when everybody is coming together, you can easily feel the ones that have alternate agendas, aren't really real. I mean, they're often dead in their eyes. You know, there's so many different ways to discern, but also at my gathering at the Galactic Spiritual Informers Conference, we can easily, again, when our heart is in resonance of love and acceptance, we can easily feel others whose energy frequency isn't the same as ours, meaning that it isn't pulsing with the human frequency, which is what we name the frequency of our planet. So we can feel someone else's energy frequency is different, feels good, but different. That is, again, how we can discern using the heart, reading with our heart, which is the best thing for me. And my advice is when we learn to read with the heart first, before the mind kicks in and takes us down different roads, we can really, really feel that. One thing I wanted to briefly touch on is uninvited readings. Now, I mentioned the old bag in her dirty, scruffy little bedroom with her horrible bare feet. Yeah, I feel sick when I think about it. People that don't have the right to read you, or, you know, go into your field, or, you know, remote view you, and then put out there absolutely just garbage, because they're coming from a garbage place. They have a garbage intention. They want to build credibility by attacking people they've never met, they don't know, they just have an idea about them. So we've got to be so careful. I remember at the What the Bleep Do We Know conference in America, that was in 2007, maybe earlier, the movie What the Bleep Do We Know, it opened, it was cadence of gates opening and portals opening in people, and oh my god, it was amazing. Before that, I think one of the big triggers for Ascension was the Celestine prophecy, and then of course we had all the 2012 predictions and stuff, as there were different gateways opening within us. But I was at that What the Bleep Do We Know conference, and I remember going to a stall, and this lady had all these beautiful crystal wands, and I was like, oh, they look pretty, let me go. And then I started talking to her, and all of a sudden she starts reading me. How rude. It's not okay just to start giving somebody a reading. And she's completely off, and I didn't have the voice I have now, because I would have got her in a headlock instantly and said, oi lady, no, that's a no. So she starts reading, and then people are hearing this noise going on, and they're starting to come to her table where she is full on insulting me. And it took me a minute or two to just say, stop it, and walk away. And I was so embarrassed. I took it so personally. And I thought, wow, that is dreadful. Dani, don't you ever do that to someone. Don't ever read them without their invitation. You say, may I share something? Can I tell you? Is it okay that? Do you know the person by the name of this? And if they say yes, say, would you mind? There's some kind of a message coming for you. That is how you do it. But when you see and read people uninviting them and making I did a reading on so-and-so. Isn't she dreadful? Here's an outline of her. Look how evil she is. A group of non-men did that recently to me. It is cruel, it is unkind, it is misleading. And because these non-men have followers, you know, followers of people similar vibration to them, they're like, and they believe it. They're so easily influenced. They're so easy to be owned and loosed. And that's what's happening. So just again before, we must, if we have absolute evidence and proof of people doing harm, then name them. But you better be right. And you'd better not be listening to gossip and hearsay. You have to know, because if you don't know for definite and you put that into the field, you are going to get that back, my friend. You are going to get that back. What say you to that, Andrea Foulkes?
Yeah, and I think we're in a time of, you know, all that going on. And the thing I hear from people the most, because, you know, there is so much information on YouTube right now and other channels, you know, and people's conflicting beliefs of who they followed, and they like this person 1 minute and then they don't like this person. But if you go back to the core, which is what we started talking about at the beginning, is if you do the inner work on you, you are going to be able to discern, who to trust, what to do. But if you're not doing this inner work and all you're doing is just overwhelming yourself with listening to stuff on YouTube, and it can get overwhelming because most of those people, when you start listening enough, they all contradict each other. And so then you're like, well, what do I believe? Who do I trust? You're not here to believe or trust anybody outside of yourself, but to develop the ability to trust. Not see, what you've got to develop is the ability beyond trusting your wounded self, because most of what people are trusting is their wounded self. So when you're coming from a place of trusting your wounded self, that isn't always the best information. You've got to do this inner work, and it's going to take time and energy to put aside to heal your inner child, to develop your intuition, so you can discern, oh, when I was my wounded self, I used to believe this and this and this. And when I evolved my inner self, then I had more discernment and I could trust this, this, and this. Because that's, and some people are very confident, they're super confident, and they're very in your face, and you think, oh, because they're confident in what they're saying, I should trust and believe them. But you don't have to trust and believe them. I've seen so many people, which I know it's a slightly different tangent, but I've seen so many people lose money over all these sort of multi-level marketing currencies and things that went on during the COVID time, and they're still upset. And I've had a lot of people reach out going, oh, I lost money doing this, or this. I'm like, listen, the first thing you need to do is forgive yourself. Forgive yourself completely. But you've learned from this experience. Don't come like, I'm going to find those people who did that. To a degree, if you feel you must pursue the path of justice and you want to go through the courts and whatever it is you're upset about, that is an option to you. But sometimes it's easier to just go, what is the path of least resistance? Actually, some of the things where I'm seeking to find justice in a court of justice, you can't find justice sometimes in a court of justice outside yourself, because it's going to cause you that much stress, that much anxiety. It might go on for years and years trying to seek this justice that you want, when actually the true court of justice is inside yourself. It's the inner alchemy of healing your emotional self. The biggest justice and court that you will ever find yourself, in front of is the court of self. I have gone into the court of myself, and I have evolved my consciousness. I have forgiven myself. I have forgiven other people. I have resolved bitterness and spitefulness. I've got a crazy girl at the moment. She'll probably watch this. She is consumed with some energy that I really pray for her soul, but before I had a phone where you could block people texting you, she used to text me 50 abusive text messages. She crossed my path the other week in Glastonbury. I really pray for her soul. I truly do. Listening to what she's written before I've been able to block the latest number, is, that person does not believe in herself. She feels unrecognized in the world from the things she's writing. I can see that she doesn't feel recognized in the world. She's got some deeper inner work to do. So finding rage and anger towards people you may have crossed paths with briefly, or you may not have even crossed paths with. I see it from the comments in YouTube sometimes, don't you? What people write, then they're not a truth. So we must develop our inner court of justice, mustn't we?
Beautifully put. And again, to give somebody an image, like saying the inner court of justice, where again, people are like, I really like him, I like her, I used to like her, but she's so gobby, I'm turned off, she's so aggressive. And again, look at that. When somebody, like people say about me, they say, some people have said,
You're
oh my God,
feisty.
I'm feisty, I'm passionate, I'm assertive. And I'm really like, I'll cry at the drop of a hat. You know what I mean? I'm so like my dad, is Scottish, you know, mega Highlander. But, you know, again, because I don't edit myself, I don't ever sit on YouTube and think, oh, well, I mustn't respond this way. I'm just real and raw. And to me, that's like, why would you be anything else than who you truly are? I don't try and emanate a single living person. I don't measure myself against a single living person. Why would you do that? It's phony and it's false and it's fake. And I think that if we have a voice of passion and experience, and we know that we can share, I mean, I'm very vulnerable. I share often, like the Mavis Patilla story. I share what I have messed up in my life, and I'm like, okay, I take responsibility for that. I'll share that, even though I look like an idiot, because that might help someone else, or someone else might be able to relate and then be kinder to themselves and quit their self-flagellation. So yes, the court of self, the inner perspection, is so crucial right now. And again, to help us decide and recognize, don't follow anyone. Stop dying on the hill, stop falling on the sword. These people are never going to know you. They're never going to see you. They don't care that you're defending them. They love it. They're used to it. They just, you know, it's an energy input that they get for free. They're not doing any work. They're not healing anything. They're just continuing to loosh off your beautiful energy. So yeah, time to go in now. It's just everything. Inner perspection is everything, my love. It really is.
Yeah. Oh, look at me. I'm just, do you know what? The other thing is, as a therapist, sometimes you get so used to listening to someone else, and, you know, it's a real gift to let somebody else speak, you know. And I noticed over the years, sort of like, sometimes I've become very mindful of myself of late, because I'm aware that I live on my own. And, you know, when you get out of the box, you're like, because you live on your own and you're used to listening all day to other people before you speak. So it kind of, you know, and you can tell people who, I can tell now people, not from their energy, just from how they speak. I can tell people who live on their own just from how they speak, because they're like, oh, I'm out. I can speak now.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. That's a good point. No, but again, you and I, we're both alpha females. We both have a hell of a lot to say. We have so much experience in the field of therapy, metaphysics, and spirituality, and the dark side, all inclusive, that when we get together, we bring this cacophony of information. We want to get it out there. And so again, I said today, like, I'll do better at listening, you know, because my broadcasts, they're not all, you know, interviews, you know what I mean? It's like we're sharing information, you know. And so I mean, I do some on my own. I should do more on my own. A few people have said this week, especially after I did that demon, how to release demons, and get like a little mini workshop. I don't like that word, workshop. I always call it a play date. It's a play date, you know. But yeah, but you're right. But it's so beautiful too, because when you do live on your own and you have all these different thoughts and you're watching other things and thinking, oh, I should talk about this, or that's triggered this, oh, I remember this, and this might help, putting this information into the field might help. So it's a good thing. Now, my love, let's talk about the beautiful work that you can offer the lovely audience that will see this, and that you do one-to-ones and on Skype, and you don't have the camera on, so don't expect her to put the camera on, guys. That's how I don't. Much better.
I find what we're doing now, like you said, you know, you find making videos on your own more challenging. I find this
challenging.
No,
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 challenging. No.
Oh, I find this to me is because I'm trying to look like I'm looking at you, but to look at you I have to look up there. So and it's so weird having a screen. Yeah, so when I work with people, I use Skype. Now I personally love Skype, and Skype is wonderful because I do sound healing with you as well. Now if I was to do the sound healing on Zoom, it will cut it off. It will not allow that for some reason. It won't allow sound healing. Because I make sophophonic frequencies, which are very profound. People have amazing healings just from the sound frequencies my voice can hit. So I use Skype for that reason. Also, for the reason why doing this interview I find is quite odd, because you're looking at this. Now imagine you're trying to do a healing session and you're looking into a camera where you can't see anyone. You need to not be looking at me or looking into, you don't need to see me. You just need to close your eyes and go inside your inner self. And, you know, often we do ugly crying, as my clients say. Oh, I'm so glad you can't see me. I'm like, ooh, you know, and it doesn't matter even if I could see you, but I don't need to see you. But I don't mind, because if I see you in person and you're crying, I know that is when I've done a good day's work, when you're crying, you know, because you need to release this stuff. You know, whether it's in person or online, I'm working with you. So online, I'm doing the emotional Akashic record. So that's me using my intuition to guide you into, I'm very specific, emotion of your trauma, be that past life, inner child, ancestral, between lives, entities, off-world beings, whatever. We're weaving between all that. And then in person, it's a little bit more lengthy process, because those sessions can be half an hour, an hour. In person is regression. It's a slower process. People speak much slower in regression, and we're weaving into, again, past lives, inner child, ancestral, the whole thing, between lives, entities, the whole thing. But it's a slower process. And then sometimes I've started doing these new things which are exceptionally powerful, which is a whole day. And the whole day, people tend to do a session in the beginning of the day, session later on. Then we go to a sacred site. If I'm in Cornwall, we go to a sacred site here. If I'm in Glastonbury, we in general either go up the tour and I sing light language there, or we go into the Chalice Well and we do some work there. And it's very interesting when you do a whole day with one person, is what comes up later in the day, because you've sort of triggered that sediment of the bottom of their subconscious mind all day. You know, then you can release that, the next level can be released. So it's quite powerful to do that. It's not for everybody, because it's a quite full-on experience. And then I've got a workshop coming up, like I said, at the Chalice Well. I'm debating on my mind what to call it today, but I'm thinking to call it Karmic to Cosmic, because karmic is not, you know, people use the word karmic, that's a whole other video we could do on using the word karmic wrongly. It's you judging you. It's always you judging you. You may be judging you off the backlog of other people judging you, but the karmic aspect is always you judging you. So if you get out of this karmic stuff with yourself, you can move into the more cosmic version of you and heal your body. You know, my passion is about healing our emotional self, and thus healing our physical self to the level that is possible for you. You know, that's my big thing. And I have a YouTube channel, which is Andrea Foulkes Past Life Regression, with loads of free videos, even back to the time when I used to do the regressions on TV. You can see those. And I'm a big Facebooker, and I have my own website, andreafoulkes.com, and people will be very happy to know that I finally fixed the downloads of the meditations. So that's a good thing as well.
Excellent. Yeah, so you have so much to offer. It's really quite beautiful. Your August 25th workshop or play date at the Chalice Well in Glastonbury, is that one day? And what time does it start and what time does it finish?
One day, well, it always starts at 10, but what time it ends is variable, because the actual day will probably end at about 6-ish, half 6-ish, but we usually end up going for dinner together in a group, which is really beautiful. So you do get quite a long day out of it. So come at 10, Chalice Well Gardens. It's not outside, it's inside. There is a beautiful meeting room that is excellent for running workshops. We have lunch, I provide lunch. We are doing guided meditation journeys. You know, you get time to spend time with me individually. Whenever I do group things, I take you outside personally on your own. So we have some private time together, because we're not a massive group, but we're a group, but we're not huge. And I will smudge you with Paula Santos, and I will ask you, what do you want to get out of today? And that sets such a powerful intention. And then I will sing light language codes to you individually for your own light language codes for you. And then we'll work in a group energy, doing guided meditations, working with the land, working with each other. You know, people come out of there, you know, usually finding a new special friend, and that is one of the most amazing things that I see happen from workshops, apart from helping people process. And then you often get people going, oh, I feel I'm taking up too much time, and then someone on the other side of the room goes, no, 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 please don't feel like that, I needed to hear that, it's making me cry, which encourages you to hear that your voice does need to be heard. And not only do your voices need to be heard, your story needs to be heard. Your stories must be heard.
Yeah, yeah, that's beautiful. Well, Andrea Foulkes, again, another
Thank you.
wonderful conversation, a great share between the two of us, and love having you on my channel. A lot of people really love and adore you too.
Thank
Such a
you.
great thing, and I love that
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah, of course, my pleasure. And you and I are going to go on an escapade ourselves. We're going to keep that on the down low for the time being, but we are actually going to go to 2 to 3 sacred sites in the great British countryside and film some of that experience and come back and share with you guys. Now, ideally, that will happen before September when the film is ready, and we will come back then and share. In the meantime, Andrea Foulkes, I love you. Thank you so much for
Thank
blessing
you,
us
Dani.
again with everything. You're welcome, my love. And to you guys out there, I hope that you will take time to make notes and listen to the different points that we bring to you in our, gift, true gift of love and help at this time. It's so bumpy. And we've lived our walk. We walk our talk. We do the work, the internal work ourselves, which you can clearly see, I would hope. But it's definitely time for all of us to continue that inner healing and, yeah, focus here. The great Jesus Christ, who I know is real because I met him physically when I was 7, he came fully awakened, a fully realized human being, a beautiful, metaphysical, divine expression of what a human is, what a human is able to do. And he said himself, apparently, that what I do, you can also do. And so that tells you that you don't need a middle person. You don't need to be tithing all of your money into the church to try and buy a place in heaven. It is a disgusting abuse of privilege when you yourself can accept that you do get to say, I can be Christ-like, I can be imbuing that energy of love that I am that I am that I am. And it's so wonderful. And it is not blasphemous. It is blasphemous to stop people from evolving and growing and being fully who they came to be, which is a fully realized human. Beautiful. All right. Love to everyone from my heart to yours. My name is Dani Henderson, and I am going to see you soon.